Spider-Man is a franchise been rebooted more times than old-fashioned choices, with 3 different cinematic universes and dozens of different games, the crown jewel of which being Spider-Man 2, the movie. The game, which only real big pitfall was that Tobey Maguire was still Spider-Man. Insomniac Games, the developers of the very colorful Xbox One exclusive Sunset Overdrive and the old classics Ratchet and Clank, came forward as the new developers of a Marvel's Spider-Man game. People wondered how their skills would translate. Would this be the newest gem of the Spider-Man game universe? Would this be a skinny jeans fashion style reboot, or would this be a clunky JNCO jeans style reboot? Well, let's find out. In this game, you get to play as Spider-Man, of course, but on the flip side of the coin, you get to play as Peter Parker in some more narrative-driven areas that really lets you see behind the mask and what it's like to not be able to use your powers even when you want to. And this is very important to a couple parts of the story where you aren't allowed to be Spider-Man and you need to be. And on the flip side of that coin, you get to play as Miles Morales and Mary Jane in these take a break from being Spider-Man missions where you get to really discover what it's like to be completely without powers and totally reliant on Spider-Man being there at the right time to really get you out of trouble if you need it. But these are more stealthy missions where you have these distraction things that you can just chuck, and honestly, they're pretty easy, and sometimes they're more frequent than I'd like. Some missions that have this in it, though, are very, very good, very well done, and I enjoyed them thoroughly, and they definitely have a place in the game, but parts of it were they were too frequent. Story-wise, this game is great. It's not phenomenal, it's not perfect, it's just very, very good. There were some tropes that it fell victim to, such as go over here and do this. Nope, that's not what I needed. I need you to go get the same exact thing from over there. Is that the one that I needed? There were very few missions that this popped up in, but it did pop up enough to be noticeable. There was also a very impactful moment where you were just in disbelief. I can't believe this just happened, and then it just keeps happening. So it kind of loses its impact by the 5th time it happens because you already know where this is going. Also, it suffers from some pacing issues where the first half of the game where you're focusing on one villain and you think that's it, and then you beat that villain and oh, there's a whole second act with 5 more villains that you didn't know about. You didn't really know were going to be part of this game. It's sort of like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, where there's just so many villains crammed into one experience where it falls short because you don't really get to experience each villain individually. There's only 2 that you really get to flesh out, and the other ones are just kind of ancillary characters. They're just off to the side, and you really don't get to spend time with them and to discover what really makes them tick other than some voice recordings. And that's really a shame because they could have been huge parts in maybe a 2nd or 3rd game. By the end of it, though, there were some tears shed. It was a good story, and it was well told. It was just a little bit too long and a little bit too lopsided in the pacing to really be a 10 out of 10 story. But I would definitely turn this into a movie if I could, because it is that good. It is a Marvel game, though, so there is a post-credits scene that you'll want to stick around for. Just saying. In this game, there are plenty of side activities. You have an almost to scale, almost replica of Manhattan that is your playground, and there is plenty to do, trust me. You have so many tokens together, and the tokens consist of backpack tokens, research tokens, base tokens, crime tokens, landmark tokens, and challenge tokens. It's a lot of tokens, and I could never remember all of them, so I had to write them down. These aren't a chore to get because you just find them organically. They are marked on your mini-map, which is kind of an infamous or Assassin's Creed style map where things are broken up into districts and you discover it by getting a tower of some sort, and then you have completion percentages in each district. I think it's very well organized. The entire menus are very well organized. They're very clean, how I like them. But the map is probably one of my favorite parts just because of how well it's put together and how well it's thought of. The enemies that you fight throughout the game, just the street level thugs and bad guys. There's not a whole lot of variance in them, but there's enough of them to keep you busy for sure. And you do not want to get hit by even the smaller, easier to kill ones, because you're Spider-Man, you are fallible, you don't have a whole lot of health. Even when you're at 200% health at the end of the game, you need to get out of there and you have to reassess your situation. That's where this game stands out, is you have to be smart about your fighting. You have to pay attention to your surroundings. Trust me, I've gotten into trouble with that a few times. With the suits though, it's really cool. There are 28 of them and they all have, not all of them, most of them have their special ability. Which special ability is going to be interchangeable throughout suits, which is nice, because sometimes I like one suit special ability, but I hate the way it looks. Street level, this game is incredible. The attention to detail, kudos to Insomniac, because it really left me in awe. You could finger gun at civilians, you could sign your way down the streets of Manhattan, just giving autographs and taking selfies with everybody, and not everybody likes you, including your least biggest fan, J. Jonah Jameson, which is now a podcast host, which you listen to throughout the game. This city just feels alive. There's traffic, there's people, you can see inside of buildings, you can see from one side of the city to the other on top of tall buildings. It is limitless what you can do, what you can climb, where you can go. And it's just so much fun. I spent hours just swinging around the city, just being Spider-Man, because it was so much fun. This is something Insomniac nailed, was the swinging, and they had to be a Spider-Man game. The swing is pendulous, it's fluid, it just feels right. There's motion behind it, and there's swelling orchestral music behind when you jump off and you're falling full speed and you swing up at the last second. And the music just makes you feel like it's a cinematic moment. You are Spider-Man in that moment, and it's a great touch. There's a lot of vocal cues. Spider-Man will be like, well, I need to go check on this. Oh, I should go do this for this person. Oh, I should be doing this. So when you're just out slinging around Manhattan, having a great time, you'll be reminded constantly of what you're supposed to be doing. Graphically, this game stands out. It is the game of the year that's not going to be the game of the year in terms of graphics, because it just blew me away. The cutscene to actual gameplay transition, fluid, perfect. It is a 1-to-1 comparison of graphics in each one. There's little things in the mocap, the little micro expressions in their faces where you can really tell what they're feeling underneath what they're saying. And what they're saying is important because the voice acting is very good inside of the main cast. The ancillary characters sometimes fall a little bit short, but the main cast is phenomenal. The lines for Spider-Man were recorded twice, once while swinging through the air and doing strenuous activities, and just sitting still, where you're either grunting and groaning while you're talking, or you're just talking, and they cut in and out. It doesn't matter. It's non-discriminatory. There's no weird cut. It's very well done. Overall, this whole game is very well done. Technically, it's very well done. Graphically, it's very well done. There are some glitches. There was a couple times where I'd see a car just drive through a building and just keep going and going and going and going. There were some times where I was talking to, well, there was one time where I was talking to someone, she just kind of scooted away, just glided away when she was supposed to be walking. These aren't game breaking to me. I think they're quite funny and they make the game more enjoyable in some areas. If it was game breaking, it would be a big deal, but I enjoy these kind of glitches personally because they make me laugh, so I'm not really going to dock it for that. I had a lot of fun playing this game. There were a couple times in the story where I was like, come on, let's go, let's pick this up. But mostly, it was just a really good time. I had so much fun just swinging around Manhattan, being Spider-Man. All in all, with the graphics, the side activities you can do, the story, I'd give it a 9. And I think the biggest fall there is the story, that a couple of things just didn't really jive with me too well. So I say pick it up. play it. Give it a chance, even if you're not a superhero fan. I'm not a superhero fan, but I enjoyed the game thoroughly. I recommend that you buy it. If you have the funds, rent it. If not, and if you have any suggestions or things to add to this discussion, please let me know about down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.